I read the news so that you don't have to. Have you heard about the foreign aid scam? So Western governments make this really big deal about their apparent benevolence when they're giving all of this aid to those poor little countries that can't look after themselves. Yeah. Anyway, how this works is I normally read a physical paper, and when I read the physical paper, I'm like, let me go and find the headline so I can put it in these stories. So when I was searching through for the digital headline, I came across this. EU foreign aid takes transactional turn with Africa minerals push. And I was like, oh, that's different, because when I read it in the newspaper, it said this: EU accused of putting its own interest first in development aid. And when I read that headline, I was shocked. Shocked! So now that they're finally saying the quiet part out loud, let's see what the story's about. First, I need to introduce you to the Lobito Corridor. It is a 1,300-kilometer railway that runs all the way from Zambia's copper belt to Angola's Atlantic port of Lobito. This railway was originally built by colonial powers to help the poor people of Africa. Ha! Psych! No, it was built to extract minerals for European markets. And now it's being revived to move millions of tons of copper by 2030 at the exact moment where copper is critical for European clean tech, EV, and energy transition goals. Such a coincidence. The project is being funded by European member states, the US, the African Development Bank, and private firms. The EU alone is giving 2 billion euros. And here's the thing, the EU has been very explicit about the fact that this aid is about securing critical minerals, energy security, geopolitical influence, and migration control. The EU's own commissioner said, yes, we are getting copper. And some of you may be thinking, well, what's the problem? They're getting a new railway. Does this infrastructure benefit the local community? No. The primary function of the railway is to transport copper, not to integrate local economies. And the local value added part, the refining, the processing, that's a possibility, not a guarantee in the future. Who are the winners? Is it the local people of Angola or Zambia or anywhere in the African nations? Don't be silly. It's the European firms. In fact, as part of the EU's Global Gateway strategy, this project is going to provide grants and loans and guarantees for European firms to help de-risk them. So just to be clear, this project, which mirrors colonial extraction routes, has decision-making that is donor-led, not community-led, and openly states that development outcomes for local people is vague and deferred or may not even be materializing. This is going under the banner of development aid. Colonialism never died, it just rebranded.
So you think it's just a coincidence that the US bombed Nigeria and Israel recognized Somaliland at the same time? Because it sure looks like Israel would have a better chance at attacking the Houthis, the people from Yemen who backed the Palestinians and blocked trade in the Red Sea, if they were across the water from them, as opposed to the US. We ain't no sharpshooters, unless it's a boat with some oil on it. Nigerians said that the area we bombed, this wasn't even where the Islamic radicals were killing Christians. But we sure are bombing close to Niger, who just nationalized the uranium and put it on the international market, effectively kicking the French out the industry. And all of this is going on while we have a continued genocide in Sudan, because the UAE is funding rebel forces, destabilizing the country and making it easier to take their gold. We already know they're good friends with Donald Trump, since the UAE has at least 9 business deals with his family and the US government. But wait, there's more. We can't forget the ongoing conflict in the Congo, the genocide that they frame as black-on-black crime. But who profits? China controls 60% of the Congo's cobalt. These minerals are central to their global supply chain for electrical batteries, electronics, and green energy technologies, all of which China owns 85% of the global market share. And what China doesn't get? Western companies step in. Apple, Google, Microsoft, Dell, and Tesla. They've all been sued by Congolese families because they knowingly benefited by cobalt mined by children as young as 6 years old in dangerous conditions, making up to 81 cents per day. That's how you get the phone that you're watching me on right now. Look, Africa is rising, but it's being circled by sharks. When Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger nationalized their resources and kicked out the French, it sent shockwaves throughout the world because the world is reliant on African resources and the world thrives off the destabilization of the continent. We are the cradle of civilization. Europe carved colonies into Africa, built roads and railways that only exported resources out the continent, rather than feeding and providing for the people that live there. So when Trump put tariffs on all those African countries, many of whom now rely on exporting only 1 or 2 resources, it started to cripple many economies. They want them to bow down to the West. or suffer before the kill. So yeah, it's freedom of the land.
Rights with Susan West.